Hey guys, it's Carnifex, another Nerd This video. Today I'm going to be revealing the first component of my updated 3.0 Rune recommendations guide. It's only got Battlegrounds in it right now because that's what's coming out probably here in the next couple days. Not for sure, it just depends on when the stores put it out there. But we're getting close and you want to either have those runes ready to go or you want to have your info ready to go and where they go. So here we go. Cool, so here it is. I'm going to post a link in the description. You can find it there. In the beginning, I'm just going to go over just kind of the layout, what everything kind of represents. I will go over some of the notes in particular. I will not be going over every character in here. I feel like it's relatively self-explanatory once I get into a few things. So starting off, it just lists the character, the leader if relevant. A lot of these, it's not applicable, right? Pretty much Thalon and General Murdoch are the main ones you're going to see because they really do change what rune loadouts you want to go with, because crit chance, crit damage in a way, is more valuable than it would be otherwise. These are the rune sets, so again, what set you want to use. An alternate leader, because occasionally there are characters where specifically, like I wanted to do, hey, not Thalon, or I want to do Lake for Amara instead of General Murdoch, for those of you who might be using that Lake sweeper team. The alternate rune set for that scenario: Northeast primary, South primary, Southwest, and Northwest. So obviously North and Southeast are fixed. They're always damage percent and armor percent, so you can't change that. And then look at this, y'all, it's bolded and underlined. Important non-speed secondaries. Don't say Carnifex, how can you say that speed isn't important? Blah, blah, because I said non-speed, y'all. Then I have some notes at the end if I feel like there's a little bit of clarification on, you know, the options there. There are a couple scenarios where I kind of put a slash where it is kind of a toss-up, or it is circumstantial, and I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory when it's circumstantial. But anywho, so we're going to go into a few things here. One, potency. If a character does not apply debuffs, it needs no potency. If it's not reducing turn meter, if it's not applying some debuff, etc., etc., if it's not trying to dispel, don't need potency. So there's kind of three categories of characters. Don't need potency, right? Need potency for non-tanks generally, or at least that's the ones that we really care about. And then basically people who are going to be dispelling tanks. Sometimes like Cruel, right? All that she can dispel is the taunt from a tank, or other times like more Doom. It might be like, you know what, he can dispel pretty much anything, but I'm pretty much always going to have him be dispelling a tank if there's a tank on the other team. So there's different thresholds each of those characters. Obviously, the first group doesn't need potency. I'm not trying to give them any at all. Second group, I'm trying to get in the mid-50s range, considering that even if, you know, for example, a character is better off getting crit chancing damage because of the speed secondaries you have, because of just the runes you have available, period, you're probably inevitably going to get in some potency on characters. And so I'm kind of building in a few percentage points of that if I'm giving them their base, first of all, their base potency, and then really most characters, as long as they had a potency primary or subset they were hitting that mid-50s threshold. Now the final group is that tanks group. Now within reason, I'm trying to get their potency as high as possible. It's frequently their most important secondary, and very frequently I will give them a potency subset and a potency primary. I think exclusively if they're used to get rid of tanks taunts, they're gonna having both of those gonna be best there. So go into that second thing. I'm gonna correct myself. I'm gonna own up some things. Back when we were starting this game, the hardest thing for me to try and calculate was how they did the armor to health conversion. You can see the Be a DC site here on the right. That is something I use extensively in order to help do this, as well as just bugging Nif. If you guys don't see him occasionally in the Discord, you just must not be on there very much, because he's always out there helping peeps. He's the person who has now taken over the site from Meta, though, who initially created it, and he's been helping me out a lot. But basically, armor sets are better than health sets, period. It is not like most games where usually it's not the case, and it's kind of selective depending on, you know, what abilities and base stats character has. Pretty much exclusively, there are basically no scenarios where as a set, now we're not talking primaries and secondaries, don't mistake me there, for sets, you want to run those defensive like shield armor sets over health sets. So that's why you're going to see those a lot here, a lot more than you did in my last guide. Finally, a couple just general things to point out. For most characters, crit chance secondaries are really significant. They give you a lot more than the damage do most of the time. Major exception being with healers, and that'll kind of be my last point here before we start going into some stuff. It's just better to increase that crit chance percentage more often than it is to increase the damage, because of how valuable the crit damage primary is and how that lends itself to you really want more crit chance as your primary secondary that you're getting, but you very infrequently want it as a primary. Sole exclusions essentially are with the goblins, as well as a couple other select scenarios. So we're gonna roll into it now. Oh yeah, my fourth thing, sorry, healers. I looked at healers in two categories. Does this character heal based on damage ever? And sometimes even twice with characters like Xantara. If so, then crit chance mattered more, crit damage as a primary mattered more. But with characters like Selina, for example, who only heal based on their damage percent, crit damage is not going to be as important. So just keep that in mind. That's why you're going to see some minor variances along the way here, in addition to just the character's base stats are different. It takes less effort to get things to different places based on your starting point and what your target is. So Illyria, with Thalon here, main note here was if she's under another lead other than Thalon, then a damage primary in the South Rune is going to be more ideal. However, just since she does heal with her A3 and it is available on turn 1, and it is a pretty solid heal, especially if you have Illyria's A3 and A4 boosted a bit, I thought having the crit damage there, because of all the crit chance she's going to be getting from Thalon, was a better way to go. Again, if you see that General Murdoch lead, you're going to see a heavy emphasis on crit chance. One of the exceptions is this being Adam. Now remember, Adam has a pretty bomb artifact coming out, which is going to give him a little bit of extra potency. I haven't done my artifact guide yet because I'm still waiting to hear some final confirmation about where some of these are going to be landing, which impacts how significant it is as food as opposed to using it. We can see some bits there. This note, flat stats are superior to percent stats. Now there are some cases where like potency doesn't have a flat, right? Or speed doesn't have a percent except with a set, but that's not what we're talking about with secondaries. You want flat stats over percent stats. That holds true with armor, even though the armor is calculated differently than most. Flat stats are better whenever there is a flat version. So damage plus 50 whatever versus damage plus 50%. That's going to be, and that's not meant to be proportional either. It's the amount of hits that you have. It's pretty hard even for if you have multiple hits on a damage percent, it can be more valuable than like a single hit on a flat damage. Usually it's going to be flat damage. Boreas, right? Count Delman looking through. You're going to find some characters also, they're basically just about getting stuff done with their speed. Buff has really low potency. I know we don't have him yet, but since he's going to be the final legendary here, we'll probably see, I would think, in the next month and a half or so. Just ballparking, that is not like wink wink spoiler alert. Count Delman, basically these arena characters, you are going to be incentivized to put speed on over the other set, and because you're going to be running them in arena, you don't want to be switching back and forth between this is what I run them with in Battlegrounds. Is that honestly, you usually want to have your arena team set and locked and unadjusted, so that you can pretty much beat any team whenever that you see against you in Battlegrounds. So just because the elves plus more Doom has emerged as kind of the superior arena meta, that's why that's there. Cruel, she's all about that potency life, right? Potency is higher than anything else because her being able to dispel that taunt and put on the invisibility is so crucial. Darian, again, you're seeing the armor on these tanks. You're going to pretty much always see armor, just like we saw with Adam. Healers, this is something where you could certainly use damage, but overall with General Murdoch, you would want to use them, and really with anyone. But at some point, right, you might say, well, I don't have any good speed runes left. Then, you know what, maybe you're going to run damage here, and I'm going to go ahead and add that. There's a couple circumstances where you know, if you're having to pick and choose who you lose your speed sets to, then a healer is a decent character to change that out with compared to some of the other options you would have. For example, some of your facilitators, again, like General Murdoch and Buff, who almost run as more like supports, whether they're more offensive or defensive supports. Freezard, again, this is not for raid. You would want a potency subset on Freezard, but we do give him a primary heal here. Pretty much you're always going to want shields. You're always going to want speed, you're always going to want shield, and the main reason for that is actually because for a while there were certain scenarios where tanks, you might say, hey, I'm actually going to not run a speed primary in here so that their taunt lasts longer. Well, with the coming of more Doom in particular, that really doesn't hold up, because if they're that slow, it gives them enough time to, you know, if there's a pre-taunt, more Doom can dispel that, and then before that character can even taunt again, like I'm thinking of Salvador in the circumstance, they're able to get out, he's able to get out his A3 because the character is just so slow. So really you want speed primaries on every single character. If you are one of those people that rolled a crazy high speed secondary like accuracy rune to someone and you want to give that to Thalon because you were tired of the 2% dodge, which is a lie. 2% is a lie. I'm going with that. Now, Instructor Gorham, this is one of those cases where, assuming you're running him with Adam, you always want to be running crit chance. Let's see if I've missed any notes over here. Nope. Okay, cool. Little note here, if you have the Kinley shield regen artifact, shield secondaries are best. I put health up there because while you do get basically twice as much flat shields as you flat health, he does get that healing from his passive. So you want to go that way, but if he's getting shield regen, well, now that's flipped the script again. So now you want to go with shields. Kelrian is one of the tanks you want to run tenacity on because he gets that tenacity buff with his taunt, and so that makes him more viable running tenacity. Kinley, so this is one of the only times I ever recommended health, and it's because initially he has really low armor overall, and he has the dodge, so he is more about having health, having shields, regenerating it, and dodging a decent amount of the time. You could totally run armor here. That's okay. I'm even going to go ahead and put... I'm an external processor. For those of you who are fans of the show, you know that, though I haven't necessarily explicitly said it, I don't necessarily come across... some things I would add until I'm actually explaining to peeps. Kiri is one of the characters you want to run on tenacity on. That's a little bit of a future proofing for Buff, because Buff is going to add tenacity to all the demons with his leadership, and that will make Kiri pretty beefy. However, you also can run her armor, and you are not wrong at all. Korg, we don't even talk about Korg. Let's see. Yeah, Little Baddie. Again, with no real tenacity boost going on, you're generally better off just running with armor. You can run him with tenacity. It's going to be less reliable in Battlegrounds. I'm going to run him with my humans team, and I want to make sure that I'm not just putting these kind of cruddy tenacity, because if I have a tenacity set and it doesn't have any secondaries on it, eventually you're going to start to run out of at least those double hits. The benefit of it starts to wear down if you're adding, because it really is easier to get those potency numbers than it is to get those tenacity numbers without losing out in other areas, because characters like Mordoom, characters like Cruel, they're not really based around doing damage. They're based around supporting, providing some kind of mechanic, and so them having to build more potency doesn't really take away from their damage in the way that someone like a Thalon would, who their goal is to do damage. That's their purpose. Master Duo, again, if you're going to run them in raid, you're going to want ×3 potency there. You could, if you really wanted, go with... So I have him on my defensive panda team right now. If you're, again, running out of stuff, and if he's just really not that strong, he's someone that you could use some of your high health secondary, health rune sets with high speed secondaries, so that he can operate as a turn meter booster for that team, because overall that team is not super fast, and if you can get them to speed up and get more of their buffs out before the opponent is able to come in and start wrecking them, that's going to serve you better So he's someone to where, again, you can kind of fudge it a little bit. Speed is going to matter more for him in Battlegrounds. Looks like I forgot one here. If the A2 is not maxed or less than 5, oh, this is for Mar. Basically, if his AoE is not maxed or there's less than 5 enemies in a wave, use the damage in all waves or the single wave, right? Use damage and CC stat instead. That's the only note there with him. Who's our next one? Just so I don't miss it here. Battle Poo, right? Okay. I'm trying to catch any more stuff here. More Doom, obviously we know. You already know. Here I am having Nightiel run with Soleus, and in that case you don't run a runner with crit damage. After going over some people the other night, actually, I had a nice little refresher for myself. If you were factoring in using a 3 to 4 star crit damage primary on the South Rune, and if you are factoring in using a 3 to 4 star damage primary on the North, which is the only option you have, basically any character needs to be around 78% for the average damage, which I do include the rune calculator. For those of you who haven't been watching my channel too long, I made a rune calculator really early on in this, and you can use it just to kind of mess around, theory craft a bit, maybe even just understands how runes work a little more. You're not going to be able to change any of these. That's all my formulas and stuff, but you're able to go in and do this. Just whenever you do that, go ahead and create a duplicate of this for yourself so that you're not fiddling around with this while other people are trying to use it. You got me? But what was I wording about? Holy cow. Who was I talking about? Oh, yeah, yeah, so you need to be running at about 78% for the average damage. So this is going to be factoring in what your damage is if you crit, times the percent that you crit, and the amount of damage you do if you don't crit, times the chance that you have to not crit. So, again, you've got it factoring in those 2 primaries I was talking about, because those are 4 damage dealers, sometimes the only option, and otherwise almost always the best option for a primary. And so whenever you do that, it adjusts kind of what that crit chance threshold is that you need to cross for it to be better than a crit for a damage set to stop being better than a crit damage set. 78%-ish, just depending. That is impossible. I did a little here. In fact, I'll look up my info here real quick. Oh, come on now. You can see I wasn't lying about talking with Nith there. Give me 1 second here. I'm seeing if I can find. I was talking about this on my channel the other day. I'm going to put a link in here too for those of you who want to join my Discord. That's where I was talking about this before. So it is currently impossible to get any current character over their CC percent threshold without a leadership or CC buff. It is impossible within any sense of reason. I gave a Gear 11 Talon, who has the highest base crit chance in the game, a crit chance subset, right? Because we can't argue for a crit damage set if we have to run more than one crit chance set, and 20% crit chance, which is insane from secondaries. That's averaging over 3%. Per that's crazy. You're probably not even getting the right speed that you need if that's an arena mod, etc. And even then, she still has not surpassed her crit chance threshold that she needs to make a crit damage set more advantageous when solely considering average damage. Now, there are times where having that spiky damage is actually more advantageous. For example, if you're running a sweeper team, it might be better in some circumstances depending on the runes that you have available. And I have based these recommendations off of someone who's kind of been running those blues for a while. They have a decent amount of crit damage runes, even though they aren't ideal for tons of circumstances. So on those sweeper teams, knocking out a couple characters can make a big difference, particularly if that enemy team has a healer that can just pop up the whole team after you get them all close to death, but not quite because your crits weren't spiky enough. So there are some circumstances where it's better. I'm looking at average damage for the most part. So characters like Revel, characters like Lake, you could justify putting crit damage set just in order to guarantee getting a couple deaths around there. But for the most part, you're going to want to run damage on characters, which is why Nightiel has one here. And that's why pretty much the only time you see CD recommended is on elves, because they're pretty much the only ones who can get their crit chance that high. Let's Okay, blah, 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 blah. Let's not miss people. Rantha, right. So even here. So this was the note here. Shields are Battle Poo gets shields proportionately from Rantha. Only his health is partial, so he gets the normal amount of shields. So like really, health is not good on Rantha. Initially, I was thinking it was great, but without understanding the relationship between shields there and armor, I am wrong on that, and I apologize. Trust me, I was running it wrong too. But you want to run full shields in there. Again, health isn't bad. It doesn't hurt. To me, Rantha's job is to bring out Battle Poo early, to prevent people from landing ability blocks from people like Kyra. And Rantha is not the super slow character. Let me see, what's her, let's go down to Rantha here. Rantha has 149 speed, which is not terrible at all. There aren't too many characters. I mean, Rune, right, is 155, and she's one of the fastest in the game. Wonder Lula is insane. I always forget. 174. So yeah, there's not that many characters that are faster than Rantha, and so I like to actually run her with a speed set. However, if you don't really have enough, and if you're again running lower on those sets available to you, then maybe it's better for you to run her with a combination of armor and health, and just use those high speed secondary health runes. Renara, again, same thing here, and it's really not bad to mismatch. You don't need this rune set more desperately than sometimes you need the speed secondaries. Don't kill yourself on keeping them together. Revel, again, this is one of those cases where you could argue for crit damage along with Lake. Salvador, we're going to see that Tromgar, we're going to get to Tromgar in a second. His artifact has a chance of changing things, but basically if using armor sets, deprioritize tenacity primaries and secondaries, because his tenacity is not going to be high enough. If you don't run full tenacity, you usually end up with just kind of wasted tenacity stats being added, or just so unreliable that it's just not worth it. Now, there might be other circumstances where just getting the right primaries, right, might be the determining factor, and it's got some tenacity on it. Tenacity is not bad, but usually it's going to end up being wasted because, again, if you're following my guide, you're going to be going up against Dispellers that are running in the 90% potency and higher. At least that's what they're going to be aiming for. So if your tenacity isn't at least that high, it's all wasted. Sengiel in some circumstances can put out some decent damage if you have him actually built up, and so I don't recommend him with speed. And also he does more. He's a bit of an odd character because he does a lot of his healing through regen, so like a speed would be an option there, but he's such a low priority character-wise, I would hate to see someone put like a good speed set there. I skipped Selina. I'm sorry, Selina. So I did put health here because I'm just going to put slash armor. She does, like, basically, again, damage, right? Damage primary here, because they have one move that they actually do damage with, and has a chance to crit and therefore take advantage of the crit damage primary. So that's how you want to run them. Selina, I just imagine being a lower priority character for people versus Renara, so that's why I put the health there. Shadar has such low potency, even though he's not a dispeller, and this was the same with Buff. They have such low base potency. In fact, where's Shot? Did I mess up on him? Let's find out if I messed up on Major Shot. Did I put potency over the other stats there? I didn't. Silly me. I'm gonna fix that right now. Shot is one of those other characters with pretty dang low base potency. If you have anything that you feel like, hey, Carnifex, I feel like you missed this, please put this in the comments below. I don't want to, this is a pretty extensive project. It is entirely possible I missed something, even though I've been trying to run stuff by peeps. Sergeant Pigwald, he is about doing damage, and all the assists he's going to do, to me, you're better off having him do a lot of damage than crit chance. Let's see, not until we get down to Slinger. Sharp, one of those few exceptions where because of his self-buff and his passive, he gets 60% crit chance between his buff and his passive. Run crit damage on your man Sharp. He's one of the few people that, regardless of circumstance, you want to run him with crit damage. Unless with potential, if there's a scenario in a raid where he needs more potency than that. going on? Oh, Slinger. So basically the note here is that if you want more reliable dispels, use a crit chance primary. I actually do this because to me it's way more important that I have him dispel invisibility in arena and in other circumstances, but particularly in arena where invisibility is such a crucial mechanic. But for higher damage, use a CD primary. Okay, this is a specific note just for Battlegrounds. Snoring, if you are able to have him, because you got to factor in his speed that he's going to get whenever you put on, whenever you use his A3, and you got to factor in the turn meter gain he's going to get from using that A3. Try to have him just slow enough to AoE just before Revel unless going tankless. That's pretty much just for scenarios where there's a chance someone might outspeed, or if like to an extent to where they're able to burn that, because Revel's a slow character. But anyway, you want to, or if you're facing a hard orc, or if you have to use your sweeper team on defense. Now, that's only if you're going with a tank. If you are going tankless, people can easily target your boy Snorri and maybe even take him out, because he is pretty weak sauce if he doesn't have Freeze Art in his team, or they can at least try an ability block him or something. So if you're going tankless, just get it out there. You're better off that way. But if you're not, he does not need high speed. Like, do not feel like even on a sweeper team that you consider a little more valuable, he does not need all that speed. Soleus, again, damage shield, just depends on the build you want to go with. Fallon, it's arena, so kind of it depends, but if you're going to use, anyway, blah, 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 blah. Thanessa, we still don't have her, but taking good guesses. Tromgar. If, use armor sets. I'm going to put sets. If there's no opposing dispeller, I'm going to put dispeller, and or using Tromgar's taunt replacement artifact. For those of you who haven't seen, Tromgar has an artifact that allows him to regain his taunt the first time he loses it in a match. That's only the first time. It can't repeat, can't happen more than once. But since that's the case, it's pretty crazy to run more than one dispeller. It does open him up to a scenario where if you have an ability blocker on first turn like Kyra, which again only has a 50% chance of even attempting it anyway, where something could be done to interfere with that. But as long as you run with him with that speed secondary, and someone like Zera, right, or more Doom is not going to come around with that second turn before he's able to come around with his first, then you're going to want to actually run the armor set here, because he's just going to soak up so much damage. By the time his taunt is finally gone, or someone's able to dispel a second time, he's going to have done his job. That is definitely one of the most valuable artifacts out there. A little note on Voyrun: if you're running him with Yogi, you need less potency. Wonderlula, because she provides that invis and getting that out quickly is significant, and she's so fast. Running that speed set can often prevent like Mordoon's A3 from going out before she's able to put your team under invisibility. Yogi, same thing. If you're running him with Voyrun and his A4 is boosted, then you don't need as much potency. Zera, there are cases where you're going to want to run her potency ×3, particularly if you're trying to if you're facing tanks where they're running those tenacity builds, because it is way more crucial. She's a counter for those teams that need those first round buffs. For example, your Pride team. Crucial. Needs that pre-taunt for Salvador because of how his AI works. If you've boosted his A3 all the way, which is generally a good idea, pretty much exclusively unless you're facing Zera, it's going to be his second turn until that comes up on defense, and you're going to use him as a defensive team more often than not. So I went into this even a little more than I wanted, but you know what? I just like helping you guys. So no, this is a long one. I'm glad. Hopefully, if you weren't in the mood for all this, that you just went and found it and got your Rex out. But anyway, look forward. I'm going to be putting out another video shortly with all of my Battleground teams recommendations, those presets. If you haven't watched the general strategy tips yet for Battlegrounds, go watch it. There's a lot of good stuff in it. Thanks, guys, for watching. I'm going to see you next time.